stage of the proceeding where you make the decision, and only you get to make the decision whether or not to testify, okay? You can choose to remain silent, or you can take the stand, be sworn to tell the truth, and then tell the truth. It's my understanding from your counsel that you wish to testify, is that correct? And has anyone, including your attorneys, threatened you or coerced you or harassed you in any way in order to get you to make this decision? And has anybody made you any promises or assurances regarding what the jury's decision will be in this phase of the trial? And you understand, no one can, right? No one can predict, like what any jury will do at any time. Your attorneys can do their best to advise you, but no one can ultimately predict. So do you understand that? Okay. And as far as at this stage of the proceedings, you will be permitted to testify, but we're not going to revisit necessarily facts, because then you risk potentially opening the door, and then you could find yourself in a situation where you could be required to answer questions about the case, and that's not what is meant to happen at this stage, and it could ultimately be negatively impactful for you if that were to happen. Do you understand that? Okay. Okay, very good. So if he's going to testify, let's go ahead and put him on the witness stand. Okay, very good. Let's go ahead then and bring in the jury.
All right.
Okay, very good. Everyone have a seat. All right, Ms. Finkelstein, your next witness is?
Gathright.
All right, Mr. Gathright, please stand up, raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this trial will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, have a seat and you may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Please state your name for the record, sir, and spell your name for our court reporter.
My name's Sean Gathright, SEANGATHRIGHT.
What's your date of birth, sir?
I was born on October 20th, 2005.
Mr. Gathright, you've heard people speak here today on your behalf and yesterday, and I know that you wanted to address the court and the jury. So I would like to ask you what you want the jury to know.
I just want to address the court today, and, you know, I'm not here to dispute anything. I'm just here to be a man and take responsibility and express my feelings about what is, you know, this whole situation. You know, that's what I plan on doing.
Okay. And how do you feel? What?
I feel very remorseful, you know. This is a terrible situation. It's been a traumatic experience. You know,
Let me ask you this. So, how old were you when you were arrested?
I was 18 years old.
We heard that you had started some college, obviously probably didn't get very far, right?
Right.
What have you done since you've been in jail? Is there programs, are there things that you can do there?
So, you know, I've gotten into programs. I've also, you know, I grew up, you know, in church and, you know, in a Christian household. So I refocused my, you know, life to Christ, and, you know, I've taken a lot of religious programs. I've read the Bible from cover to cover. I've tried to, you know, share some word, and, you know, we have prayer circles in the jail and stuff like that. I've led a couple, you know, prayer circles, and I've tried to, you know, kids around my age or, you know, younger, you know, since I'm 20 years old now, that when you turn 18, you know, you go to the adult pods and stuff like that. So if I see somebody who I see, you know, has a lot of potential and has a chance to keep them from, you know, basically being able to be corrected at this opportunity and not come back, you know, I try to take them under my wing. As you see, I have a lot of resources and a lot of family that love me, and they've even, you know, asked me, like, hey, is there anybody in there who doesn't have somebody like that, who, you know, could we send them some money, like, you know, anything like that. So I've tried to, you know, be a vessel for God to pour over my blessings into those around me.
We heard from Mr. Benoska, who said that, you know, in prison that there is opportunities at times to be a mentor, or you do orientations and peer-to-peer things like that. Is that something that you'd be interested in doing?
Of course, you know, I definitely want to, you know, try my absolute best to course correct anybody from falling down a path that they don't have to take, especially the youth. I feel like that's my calling that God has put on my heart to, you know, be a mentor to the youth and be a positive influence in this world.
What about those relationships? Like you said, you have a lot of people. Are you able to maintain those relationships now?
Yes, so, I mean, everybody who I, you know, maintain a relationship with wasn't able to all be here today or, you know, even testify. But, you know, I talk to them daily, weekly, bi-weekly. You know, I cherish my supporters very deeply, and I want to maintain a relationship with them for the rest of my life.
And I know, you know, we're not going to talk about the case itself, right? But you said that you were taking accountability, you felt remorseful. Tell us what you mean by that and what statement you want to make.
To the victim's family, you know, I want to send my deepest condolences, and you know, I understand that it's hard losing a child, a best friend, a brother, a cousin, and for that I just cannot say sorry enough. You know, I feel terrible about the situation, but I'm a firm believer that God can use anything for good that the devil wanted for bad. And so I am grateful for the people I've met, for the lessons that I've learned, for just this experience in general, because it's one that I'll never forget, and it's going to shape the rest of my life.
Sounds like there's that saying, it's kind of cheesy, but you make lemons out of lemonade or whatever. Make
Lemonade out of lemons.
Somehow. I obviously don't make lemonade, but it sounds to me like you are going to try and make the best of a bad situation. Does that sound about right?
Of course.
And are you going to continue to do that?
Of course. I'm going to try to, you know, continue a humble life, a righteous life, you know, try to do the right things at all times, and, you know.
Will you apprise yourself? We've heard about some, you know, courses and programs and things that you can get involved with to stay busy in prison. Is that something that you plan to do?
Yeah, so you know, hearing Raul's testimony was, you know, the first glimpse that I have of, you know, what prison it could be like. You know, I want to stay as busy as possible, you know, stay away from bad apples. You know, I want to, like, keep a job, get into programs, try to get into any vocational things I can do, try to, you know, keep my record clean to, you know, go to the best incentivized things and have visits with my family. And, you know, I just want to just stay out the way, you know. I just want to make everything, you know, peaceful as can be.
So even knowing that you're not getting out of prison, you want to make the best of your stay there?
Of course. I mean, who wouldn't? If you're going to be somewhere for the rest of your life, why would you make your life a living hell?
And you're young, right? You're 20?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, may I have a moment?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness.
Okay, state.
You would agree with me that Charles Jones was young too, wasn't he?
Relatively young, yes, sir.
26, right?
Yes, sir.
That's what the evidence showed us, correct? You were sitting here watching that, correct? The evidence that came in over the last several weeks?
I was right there.
Yeah. And you want to take accountability now, correct? You want to take accountability now that this jury has found you guilty, correct?
Yes, sir.
Weeks after we went through a trial. Is that your testimony?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to sustain the objection.
You indicated this was a traumatic experience. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
That's what you just testified to, correct?
That's what I said.
We just have one moment, Your Honor. I'm trying to get the all know.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Stage 25C, you remember Gino Norris?
Yes, sir.
You remember him? He was also really young when this happened, wasn't he?
I didn't know how old he was.
Early 20s, 22. Would that surprise you?
No, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. Gino Norris, who's not a gang member, who's Charles Jones' friend from the time they're children.
That's the legal basis.
The facts of the case that we were told.
Okay, come on up, counsel.
C, Xavier Edwards. 25C, Gino Norris. And you saw the autopsy photos of Charles Jones. My question to you is, after you and your friends inflicted that carnage on June 23rd, and as you were running stage 59C, this is actually you running to shoot them, but when you were running back past that Tesla, were you feeling a lot of trauma at that point?
It was so long ago, I try to not remember anything from that night.
Were you remorseful as you were running back with that AR-15 in your hands?
Like I said, I try to remember nothing from that night.
Was it traumatic to you as you went back to the car with that AR-15? Was it still smoking? Was it still warm in your hands from firing it?
Sustain the objection.
Were you feeling remorse as you were getting back into the Impala?
Like I said, I just try to focus on today and moving forward.
So the next day, that Impala, that was your car. You drove that around, right? It was your mom's, but you drove that car, correct?
Yes, sir, it was my mother's car.
All right. And that was the car you drove from Jacksonville to Tampa in, correct?
Your Honor, I'm going to object beyond stuff.
I'm working to a point, Your Honor.
Okay, why don't we just get there?
All right. So this car, this Impala that you drove from Jacksonville to Tampa in with Mr. Chance and Miss Andrews, the one that you drove in tandem with the Silver Cruise, the same car that you utilized to drive the assault team, the shooting team, which you were a part of that night, that same car that you drove around Tampa in the early morning hours for several hours, tracking, stalking, and hunting Charles Jones and his entourage.
Sustain.
That same Impala, you drove that to Polk County the next day, and you dropped it at your grandmother's house, right? The same grandmother who came in here last night and testified for you, correct?
Overruled, go ahead, you can answer that question.
Isn't that correct?
What is the question?
You dropped the Impala, the one that had all of these shooters in it, the one that was utilized in this murder, that was such a vital cog in this plan. You dropped it at your grandmother's house in Auburndale, didn't you?
I'm here to testify about today.
Are you going to answer that question, or are you going to avoid it? Because that's not what I asked what you were doing here today. I think we all understand what you're here to do today, what you're testifying about. I'm asking you specifically about your remorse. Were you remorseful when you dropped that car off and left it at your grandmother's house in Auburndale?
I did go to my grandmother's house.
Were you feeling remorse when you hugged her and got into the 4Runner and left her with the Impala after you wiped it down?
Sir, I'm just telling you that today I would like to express my remorse to the family and to the court.
I understand what you're trying to do today. I'm asking you, since you're trying to convince this jury that you're remorseful, were you feeling remorse that next day or later that day?
I don't remember these days in detail, how I was feeling, what I was thinking.
What about later that night when you went to Orlando? Were you feeling remorse when you were out partying at Club Parlay, celebrating what you had done that day?
That was my sister's birthday party.
What did you feel any remorse while you were drinking Don Julio tequila and putting that in your video and throwing gang signs?
I'm here to testify about today, sir. We've all seen the evidence. We've all reviewed everything.
Mr. Chance, it's not time for you now to make speeches. You've politely answered your counsel's questions. Can you not answer the state's questions? Is there something about my question you don't understand?
I was getting to
I'm sorry, Mr. Gathright. I called you Mr. Chance. Excuse me.
I was getting to my answer. Like I said, I've seen all the evidence.
Well, we've all seen all the evidence.
Yes,
right?
sir. That's true.
And after all that evidence came in, and this jury based their true verdict on that, convicting you, now you're taking accountability? Is that correct?
Sustain the objection. I think the question on the table was remorse about in Orlando. Okay?
It is, Your Honor.
You just need to answer that question.
So I'm going to ask you very specifically, okay? So try to focus with a laser beam here, Mr. Gathright. Were you feeling remorse when you were in Club Parlay in Orlando drinking Don Julio? Were you feeling remorse for what you did earlier that day?
I don't remember how I was feeling or what I was thinking.
Were you feeling remorse when you got pulled over in the 4Runner a couple of days later by the police?
I don't remember. I was nervous. I mean, I had never been involved in any police
Were you feeling
matters.
remorse when you were unloading the Impala and putting all of that evidence into the 4Runner? Did you feel remorse?
Sir, I told you I don't remember how I was feeling or what I was thinking in those days.
Mr. Gathright, you have led, you would agree with me, an extremely privileged life, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
You would agree with that, correct?
I would.
You've had a loving mother, correct?
Yes, sir.
A loving sister, correct?
Yes, sir.
You've had 2 wonderful grandmothers, correct?
Yes, sir.
You would agree with me, right?
I couldn't deny that.
One of which probably, I'm assuming, sacrificed and paid for you to go to that private school, that preparatory school, correct?
It wasn't paid. It was a magnet program, so I had to apply, and it was a lottery system.
It was a lottery system. Okay, so it was a magnet.
Yes, sir.
All right. She supported you going there, did she not?
Everybody did.
Gave
Yes, sir.
you open use of her house, welcomed you, treated you, and parented you, basically, didn't she?
Yes, sir.
Took care of you when your parents were deployed, correct?
Yes, sir. At the time, I was living with my grandmother. Both of my parents had been either retired or out of the military. I was just living there more so. I needed a change of scenery, and my relationship with my father wasn't sustainable.
Okay. This is when you're in Oxford with your grandmother.
Yes, sir.
The nice lady we saw earlier came in here.
Yes, sir.
The one that has supported you and spoke so lovingly about you, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so you went to this preparatory school, and whether you got in there through a lottery or not, you would agree with me, not everybody gets to go to a school like that, correct?
The lottery school, the magnet school I went to was in middle school when I was living in Jacksonville. The school I went to in Oxford, it was just a public high school.
A public high school.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
my mistake. So you went to that preparatory school in Jacksonville.
Yes, sir.
But again, that school was not something that every kid gets to go to, right?
No, sir.
Not every kid gets to have a counselor and a role model like Mr. Edwards, correct?
No, sir. I was very blessed.
And not many children get to fly in planes with their stepfather, correct?
No, sir.
And fly around in Asia and get to see islands off the coast of Okinawa, correct?
No, sir. I was
And go on
very
camp-
blessed.
You are very blessed, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
And not every kid gets to go to Scotland, right?
No, sir.
Or Ireland,
No, sir.
or Paris,
No, sir.
or London,
No, sir.
or Spain.
No, sir.
Cape Town or Johannesburg, or
Uh,
both in South Africa?
Cape Town.
Cape Town, beautiful city, right?
Yeah.
You got to go experience that when you were growing up, correct?
I did.
Because you had such loving people around you supporting you, correct?
Yes, sir.
In fact, your grandmother went with you on that trip, did she not? Or not on that one, but on the ones to
several
Europe,
trips.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And we heard you got to meet up with your sister in one of those trips, correct?
I did. I had the privilege.
So you always had someone there taking care of you, and you always had good, strong male role models, including people at your grandmother's church and your stepfather, Mr. Harrington, correct?
I had male role models in my life growing up, but in my more formative years, more so 16 to 18, I didn't. I did not have a relationship with my father, and the male role models that came and testified, they were present but not intimately as whenever I was younger, maybe middle school years. But when I turned around 16 to 18, it was the females that actually had that caregiving and, nurturing relationship with me. But
Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it.
yes,
So,
sir. Towards the more recent years, I didn't have that one-on-one and very close relationship with, those male role models in my life. You heard my stepfather say, after the divorce.
I did hear that, Mr. Chance. Let me stop you,
Mr.
okay,
Gathright.
and we'll go back to my question. I'm sorry?
Mr. Gathright.
I'm sorry, I keep calling you that, Mr. Gathright. Let me go back to what you said earlier. Between 16 and 18, you didn't have a male role model? Is that what you're telling the jury?
I'm not saying I didn't have any male role models, but day to day, young men need strong.
That's not what I
influence.
asked. I asked if you had a male role model between 16 and 18.
I had a figure that I could go to, but not intimately.
Mr. Edwards, right?
Yes, sir.
He had stayed in contact with you even when you graduated into high school, correct?
Yes, sir. We definitely maintained a relationship, but
And he
It
seemed to
wasn't.
be pretty enthusiastic about that, right?
Yes, sir.
In
Yes.
fact, you went on a cruise with him at some point, did you not?
Yeah, when I was younger, yes. We had
Okay.
a very close relationship.
And then from what you're saying, if I understand it right, the females, I'm assuming you're talking about your grandmothers and your mom stepped into the gap?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was grandmother's, mother's, sister. Those
So
are my
let me
girls.
see if I got this right. When you were being brought up, and you were being brought up by a mother who was enlisted or an officer in the military, an officer, wasn't she?
I don't know exactly what her rank is. I know she was a sergeant.
But in the Marine Corps.
Yes, sir. She was in the Marine Corps.
All right. And then you had a stepfather who was in the Air Force, right?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was.
From the time you were 3 all the way up to when they divorced in 2020.
Yes, sir.
All right. They taught you right from wrong, correct?
Yes, sir.
And we
Of
heard
course.
that from your
Yes, sir.
grandmother,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yeah. Of course. Yes, sir.
Miss Lyle, she told us the same thing.
Right.
They brought you up in the church. They taught you about the 10 Commandments. They taught you about right from wrong, did they not?
They did.
All right. And they were excellent role models about living your life in a disciplined, honest, and right way, correct? And being law-abiding, correct?
They really didn't have to worry about me.
Well, let me just answer my question. Would you agree with what I'm telling you? That they were excellent role models of
Yeah.
how to live a moral life?
Yes, sir. They definitely instilled the foundation.
May I have one moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
I have nothing else, Your Honor.
Okay, redirect.
Mr. Gathright, despite living, I think I did that. Despite having what you called a blessed upbringing, you still find yourself here today, right?
Unfortunately.
Where you had lived, we heard about Mississippi, and was Jacksonville different than where you had lived previously?
Jacksonville was unlike any other city that I've lived in or visited or any other country. The cultures, the neighborhoods, the people, it's completely different.
And how old were you when you kind of started experiencing that culture shock?
So when I moved to Jacksonville, I was about 9 or 10 years old. I didn't really know much about what the streets were, quote unquote, the streets were. It was more whenever I got to high school and I wanted to leave the magnet school that I was at. I wanted to be at more of a neighborhood school to be around the people I grew up with, because at the magnet school it's 30, 45 minutes away. I didn't really know anybody. I wasn't as close as the people who I grew up with. So around high school, that's when I started hearing about, and seeing, the different things like, the drugs and people dying and, stuff like that. And then I was caught completely off guard, but I was curious, like, what is this? And listening to the music, like, I was just, like, caught off guard. Like, I'd never experienced something like that, especially living in Japan and, living in different states around the world. I mean, or in the country, they didn't have what Jacksonville had.
And we've heard from a lot of people that knew you, and I think it's been a pretty consistent theme that you were mature and, smart and interested in things. But you were still, what, how old around that time?
I was 14, 15, I definitely would consider myself to be smart and, mature for my age, but
Still curious?
I was still a young boy, I still am a young man.
You think you were kind of impressionable?
I would characterize myself as, at times being naive, gullible, impressionable, and yeah.
And so despite that upbringing, are you finding yourself, you're in a different culture now, but you still want to be as successful as you can?
Yeah, so being in the jail, I'm by myself, especially in a city so far away. I don't know anybody, so I took this time to focus back in on myself and just get back to the basics, what I know, and without anybody being in my ear or influencing me, I've cut out the noise, there's not many distractions in jail, the same thing every day. So I started to work out and, you know, programs, try to educate myself more, plan, you know, stuff like that. Everybody asks themselves, or everybody asks God for things, you know, what we want from what we want God to do for us. But a lot of the times we don't ask what God wants from us. And so I've asked God that question, you know, what do you want from me? You know, I'm asking all these things from you. What do you want from me? And he told me that he's calling me, like, I feel like my calling, or what he told me, was to be there for the youth, serve the youth, keep them from going down similar paths, because there's a better way. And the streets is not the way. The streets are not the way.
Even having everything, trips and privilege and church and grandmas, and you still can find yourself going down a wrong path, right?
Objection, leading.
Sustain.
And you feel that that's your calling?
Yes, I want.
Objection, non-responsive.
Well, I think it's more asked and answered, but you go ahead and answer. Just yes or no. Just answer yes or no.
What
Do you feel
was-
that your calling?
Just what you were
Oh,
describing.
yes, I do.
Um,
I would like to.
Well,
Objection,
no.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
no. You just gotta wait for a question, okay, Mr. Gathright?
Yes, ma'am.
no further questions.
Okay, very good. All right, members of the jury, I'm gonna have you step in just 2 minutes quick, and then we will return.
All rise.
Okay, very good. Mr. Gathright, I'm gonna have you step back to sit next to counsel. And do you have any witnesses, any further witnesses, or are you resting?
No, Your Honor, all right.
Okay. All right, and then you're up next, right? Okay. Let me see if,
Excuse me, Mr. Herman.
yeah, the witness is still there, so. Is someone taking a restroom break? Okay.